Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be bringing you along whilst I try out a fun little photographic technique on some beautiful short-eared owls. But before we delve into that, I just wanted to quickly talk a little bit about location sharing. So recently I was at a short-eared owl spot just outside of Bristol and I felt myself feeling a little bit uncomfortable because there were probably around 70 to 80 other photographers that were there. Now, of course, I'm not blaming anybody. I was there for the exact same reason as everyone else. And the only reason I knew about the location was because someone else told me. To the credit of everybody that was there, no one strayed off the path. No one went chasing the owls to find that perfect shot, and everyone was very well behaved. But I just think the amount of people that were there is what made me feel a little bit uncomfortable and made the whole experience just feel a little bit less wild. On one hand, heading to certain locations has allowed me to meet great people and like-minded wildlife photographers and nature enthusiasts. And it can be really nice to have that shared experience with other people. And if you're just starting out with your wildlife photography or wildlife watching, then how else are you going to know where these specific species are without putting in hours and hours of work? And time can be very hard to come by, especially if you work a 9 to 5, and especially in winter when we really don't have very many hours of daylight. However, there's a delicate balance to strike. On the downside, oversharing locations can lead to heavily increased human activity in what are very sensitive areas. And this can lead to a disruption of the natural behaviour of the wildlife that we've gone out to observe. Luckily, short-eared owls tend to be fairly nonchalant about human presence, but I have witnessed and heard of some horror stories when people just overstep the mark to try and get that perfect shot. I think a lot of criticism that is put towards wildlife photographers is probably down to those few people that consistently take it too far around particularly sensitive species. As I've said, I've been a beneficiary of location sharing, and I'm sure I will also be in the future, be it on bird guides or Facebook groups or word of mouth. So I'm keen not to express a specific opinion here because, to be honest, I'm not really sure that I have one. Personally, I tend to only tell a few people that I really trust if it's a sensitive species, but I'm keen to know your thoughts on this. Do you end up sharing locations online? Do you not share any locations no matter what? Drop me a comment below, as I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts on this, because I think there's probably going to be a lot of people with differing opinions. But enough of that for now. Let's get on with some photography. If you're watching from the UK, you'll be well aware that we don't often get treated to that beautiful golden light that only a winter's evening can provide. And as you can probably see, doesn't look like we're going to be getting that this evening either. But when you've got a subject as special as a short-eared owl, you don't want to let the conditions or the light stop you from going out to photograph. So I think I've got two options really. Number one, crank up that ISO so I can get a high enough shutter speed to freeze all the action and then deal with noise or anything in post-processing. Or number two is getting creative with some slow shutter speeds that, unless you're using a filter, is only really afforded to us when the light is low or bad, as some people might say. So that's exactly what I'm going to do today, and I'll be showing you what I'm looking for within a scene when I'm doing this type of photography, and what settings I'll be using to try and get some lovely shots of short-eared owls. As there'll be significant motion blur in the images, I'm looking for nice colours or complementary colours to the short-eared owls, and hopefully a few different textures that will look quite nice when they're all blurred. So this is where I'm going to be concentrating all of the rest of the afternoon on. Settings wise, I'm setting my shutter speed to around 1/30th of a second, but it can probably range from around 1/15th to 1/60th of a second. And then depending on what happens with the light, I'll be changing my ISO and aperture accordingly. Again, because there's going to be so much blur in the image, your aperture doesn't really matter that much here, so you can play around with this and see what suits you. And because I'll be panning, I've set my image stabilization to work with horizontal panning, and on my OM-1 that is IS2 mode. Now, all I'm waiting for is for the owls to hopefully go either from left to right as I'm looking at it, or right to left. And then I'll be panning with the owl to hopefully keep elements of the owl sharp, and then the rest of the image is completely blurred. The other benefit with this technique is you don't need frame filling subjects for this. I think because everything else is blurred and hopefully your subject is sharp, it draws attention to the subject, and then everything else is just an interesting arty photo. It's very hard to know when you're taking the shots, whether any of them are going to be usable in that series that you've just taken. You've just got to trust in your ability to keep the subject within the focus point that you've got specified. Pan as smoothly as possible with the subject, and then you've just got to keep shooting. I'd recommend as high a burst mode as you've got on your camera, because the chances are you might take, say, 1,000 shots. There's probably going to be 2 or 3 usable shots, but those shots will be something different to what you see. If, like me, you're on Instagram, you'll see at the moment Instagram is plastered full of short-eared owl photos, and don't get me wrong, I absolutely love them. But this is just something a little bit different, a little bit out of the ordinary, to be adding to the plethora of short-eared owl photos that have already been put online. Oh, wow. Oh, there's one coming. Oh, beautiful. I mean, it's so hard to know whether any of those photos are going to be good. It's so trial and error. Well, I have to say, I am being spoiled here. I think there's about 4 or 5 different short-eared owls that are flying around in various fields around here. I must have had about 4 or 5 different passes here, and I've been here. There's a bloody there's a male hen harrier. Jesus. Wow. Couldn't even get my words out. Oh my God. Well, it's flown away, but gee, oh, God, I love male hen harriers. Well, that's stolen the show, isn't it? Right, I'm going to shut up just in case that comes back around. If I get anything from it, you'll be sure to see it. Just as I was talking about how spoiled I was. Anyway, the harrier hasn't returned, but I will keep looking this way to be looking out for it. I've been incredibly lucky this evening. I've had loads of passes, and that is a good thing, because I'd probably recommend this technique to people that already have plenty of shots of short-eared owls. I can completely understand that if it's your first time, or you've only seen short-eared owls a few times, then go out and nail those typical images, sharp photos, action shots, flybys, do that. But if you've got plenty of those, I recommend you give this a try, because it's all about building a portfolio of different types of images and getting your creative juices flowing, learning your camera, learning different techniques, and that will mean that whatever the weather, whatever the lighting conditions, you've got techniques ready to go to adapt to that specific environment or conditions. I sincerely hope that the harrier didn't go past me as I was talking to you there. Anyway, back to photography. Right, well the owls are down now, so I'm going to call it a day. Now I've just got to go back, trawl through all the photos, and fingers crossed there are a few that are sharp enough that will make this video a worthwhile video for you guys to have watched. If you did enjoy, then please consider liking, commenting, and if you haven't already done so, then a subscription to my channel would be lovely. But for this video, I'm going to say thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.